Hey everyone, this is Ricky with Spoiler Force Podcast, courtesy of Popluck Podcast. You can find more episodes of Spoiler Force Podcast on Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, or on Facebook at facebook.com/popluckpodcast.
Spoiler Force Podcast! I choose you!
It's an LP beat.
Alright, so this is episode 26 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for listening. I have so much to talk about today. A lot happened within the week, or within a week and almost like a week and a half. Hold on, my mics. I can I can hear all the wires like crossing and touching, and it's irritating the shit out of me. Okay, hopefully this is better. But yeah, I do want to just address first, rest in peace to John Witherspoon, comedian, actor. He's known for his roles as Gramps in the Boondocks, anime or cartoon. He's also the dad in Friday, and he's in a bunch of other comedic movies like Little Man. He's a great actor, and not just that, but he's a great comedian too. And I listened to his podcast with Joe Rogan earlier last week when I came back from Florida. I never knew he was from Detroit. I always just knew of him. I wasn't too heavy into his work, but he did play a big part growing up because of the Friday films and just his overall charisma. Like he was very one of a kind. Rest in peace to Mr. Witherspoon, and my condolences to his family as well. Hearing his story on Joe Rogan's podcast, he talked about how he was from a huge family of 11 and how he pretty much worked his way up. He worked at like a Chrysler plant, and he just took the risk, and he worked hard. He went to New York. He did a little bit of modeling from what he said on the podcast, and then he drove all the way to California to pursue comedy because he felt like he was funny, and that was it. He pretty much just worked at what he was good at, and he found his niche. That's what I wanted to touch up on for Mr. Witherspoon. Again, rest in peace. And thank you for your comedy and for your acting style and your overall character as well. Coming back from Florida, I really missed the weather as well. Florida was pretty fun. I went there with my family and my sister and her boyfriend for my sister's 25th birthday. We went to Clearwater, Florida. Well, we landed in Tampa first, and then we went to this restaurant, Saigon House. I don't know. It's like a pho restaurant, but they have one of the best banh mi sandwiches. And for those of you who don't know what banh mi is, it's a Vietnamese style sandwich. It's a baked bun with carrots and like whatever protein you like, and cilantro, jalapenos, and some have sauces, some don't. The one I had a beef sandwich, and I also had the barbecue chicken, so that was really good. The sandwiches are really good, and we got to sit outside because it was hot, and the weather was great. We didn't stay in Tampa too long, like I said, because the hotel was in Clearwater. We spent most of the weekend at beaches. We went to Cali Beach, and to get there, you had to take a ferry. Cali Beach was nice because there was nice breezes, and I believe it was like a seasonal thing where the king tides apparently come through, and we saw a live film crew for the National Geographic. They were recording and interviewing people for the king tides, or at least that's what the lifeguard or the guy who worked there was telling us. That he set up umbrellas and seats and whatnot for us. So we sat there most of the time. We sat there for from 12 to 3 in the afternoon. I didn't really sit. I sat all day. I like the breeze. Like whenever I go to beaches, I kind of like to just sit back and relax more. I don't really swim in the water, and especially with the ocean. Like I have huge, I guess you could say, phobias. I hate the chance of getting stung by a jellyfish. And at Cali Beach, there's a lot of wildlife there, so you go at your own risk. There's like rattlesnakes there. We saw an armadillo cross our car, which was really cool because I've never seen an armadillo in person. There's land tortoises there. There's stingrays there. They tell us that when you get into the water, you shuffle your feet in the sand so that the stingrays can feel the vibrations of the sand so they can move. So if you step on one, you get stung. That's on you. But overall, it was fun. But the thing I hated was the fucking seagulls. I was eating a sandwich, and the seagull came and took my sandwich. I was so pissed. Not only was I pissed, I hate birds, especially like wild birds like that, because they eat, like, especially seagulls. They eat shit, so they have tons of bacteria and they're disgusting, and so like all that shit was running through my mind, and I wanted to throw hands with birds. There was like a gang or a flock of birds all around us because they saw that we had food and chips and whatnot. It was terrible, but overall the beach was fun. And then we went to Clearwater Beach. It was nice. We went on the last day, which was like on Monday, because we came home Tuesday. But yeah, we didn't go Saturday because it was just so not wild. It was so busy and so packed with tourists too, which is crazy because you'd think that the weekend before the holiday that there wouldn't be as much, but I guess everyone was thinking the same, so they all came at the same time. But yeah, the hotel we stayed at, I forgot what it was. My parents booked it for us, but it was a nice little suite, nice pool on the like in the outside of the hotel. We were near a little plaza where there was a like a sushi poke bowl area. I tried, the poke bowls for the first time. I had that all weekend. I probably spent over $100 just on food. I spent a lot of money that weekend. Even looking at my bank statements, I'm like, shit. I should have never spent that much, but I just did. Each poke bowl was like $15 each, and then like I was I guess you could say experimenting. I had like one of their signature bowls that they have as an option was like the sunshine bowl, where it was like tuna and shrimp and spicy mayo sauce, eel sauce, like that. And then I started making my own, and then I think I came down to a bowl where I finally liked it. So I started off with sushi rice. I had light ginger, green onion, jalapenos, carrots, and then I'd go to my protein, the spicy chicken with shrimp, crab sticks, which was an extra $1, and then avocado, which is another extra $1. And edamame, the little seeds. And then I'd top it off with like crispy onion or like deep fried onions, dried seaweed on top. And then I top off the sauce with spicy mayo and eel sauce. The ladies there, they hooked us up. The restaurant's called Poke 88. So if you're in Clearwater, Florida, that's what it is. Thinking about it now, I want to go back and get it again. I tried shark tacos for the first time. Eating shark was weird. It doesn't smell, which is good. The texture is very much like fish, but there's no flavor. It's very soft, but it also had like a fresh taste to it too. So like there's pros and cons to it. I wish they had more seasoning with it. I felt like the chefs who cooked it, they just kind of battered it up and deep fried it. And I spent like $40 on 8 tacos, and I was pissed. I'm like, we could have just gone to the flea market and got real tacos for much cheaper. And that's pretty much what we did. I mean, most of that weekend was for my sister. Again, happy birthday. We pretty much drank a lot of Patron, had a lot of Modelo. One more thing too, I do want to address this as well. When we were coming back to the hotel on, I believe it was Saturday, we went to the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. There they rehabilitate and release animals like turtles and dolphins and other sea life creatures as well. I touched a stingray there. I've touched stingrays before, but this time I got to really touch them, and I made a joke about it on Facebook. Like, I was gonna throw hands at the stingray for Steve Irwin, but it was cool though. I mean, and in that particular aquarium, that's where Winter and Hope the dolphin reside at. For those of you who don't know, but Winter the dolphin is the dolphin in the film Dolphin Tale, where the dolphin, she doesn't have a tail, so the hospitals they create a prosthetic tail for the dolphin, and so she learns how to swim. And from what we've heard of the story is that Winter got caught in a fish net or some sort of like fishing boat or something like that, and she struggled to escape, but then she got caught up and it wrapped whatever that was there, wrapped it on her tail and cut off the circulation. And so when the aquariums saved her, it naturally fell off her body because it was dead. And I've seen the photo of it, and it looks like it just kind of like dissolved. And I mean, it doesn't seem as graphic as what they've said, but it was really sad to see that actually happen to the dolphin. She learned how to swim on her own without a tail, but she swims sideways or horizontally. So she's building muscles around what you would say like her hip area, even though they don't have hips, but it's a unnatural muscle movement for a dolphin to swim like that. And so they created a tail so where she can swim, so she can learn how to use the motion properly and go up vertically up and down instead of horizontally. So they've been taking care of Winter for a very long time, and it was cool to see her in the pool and her and Hope get her rehabilitated, and like they train them and give them treats, and the people are super interactive and very nice with these animals. And I got to see Nicholas the dolphin as well. He was on the upper deck outside where like the port was. He was pretty cool. He kept coming in and out of the water and showing his head and like swimming around. What really caught my eye was the otters. I'm a huge otter fan. I know that they're somewhat destructive naturally because they build a lot of dams and stuff like that too. But it was so cool to see them like swim around on their backs. And at first they were sleeping, and then like an hour later they were out and about. So I really enjoyed that. I got to see some not tortoises, but sea turtles. There was like one turtle in there. I forgot the name, but it was like over 100, almost 100 years old. I felt bad for these turtles too, because a lot of the turtles that they have that they're rehabilitating, a lot of them are hurt or injured. One turtle had its jaw broken, so that turtle cannot eat. They have to physically hand feed it. There's like one turtle who got hit by a boat. They're like blind in one eye. So a lot of these turtles that they saved, that are mostly injured, they can't survive out in the wild, so they have to pretty much live the rest of their lives in the aquarium. Again, I saw some stingrays. I saw pelicans, some big ass pelicans. They look like freaking Pokemon in wherever their habitat was. I saw some sharks there. I saw some pufferfish, and the lady laughed when I was talking about Mrs. Puff from SpongeBob. We were walking around. I'm like, the only time I think about pufferfish is when I think of Mrs. Puff from SpongeBob, and the lady overheard that she was cracking up. But yeah, like usually for me, I'm not a big fan of zoos and aquariums, because I feel like using these animals as money and to pander off these animals to make money. I'm not really for that. I feel like they should just live naturally in the wild. But if you're rehabilitating them and taking care of them out of your own pocket too, I respect that. But it's pretty much what your intentions are. I feel like a lot of zoos, they capture these animals, or they don't capture, but they take in these animals and just leave them how they are. Like a lot, I don't know. I don't want to get too into this stuff because like this is a whole nother topic. I feel like I just feel like a lot of animals that are in zoos should be released into their natural habitat. But with the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, they're doing a good thing, and we got to see like the vets take care of these like turtles and stuff. They're like trying to like rehabilitate turtles, and a lot of baby turtles especially because they make it to the shore. They get off. They make it to the water, but then the waves get them, and then sometimes they get like out of. They're not in the. How can I say this? Sometimes like these baby turtles, when they hatch from the beach and make it to the water, sometimes like they'll run into boats and stuff, and that's how they get hurt. And so they rehabilitate a bunch of baby turtles. Like there was tanks of them, just being rehabilitated, and I thought that was really cool. We got back home last Tuesday, and then pretty much wrapped up the rest of the week with work, and finally took some time to read my comic books. So I will just start off with that as well. Let's see. I literally just got done reading Harleen number 2. I don't think I've touched up on any of this stuff since I've had my guest. Taking a look back at my episodes, I think, the last time I really touched up on something was back in Cincinnati, which was about a month and a half ago, back in September. So yeah, let's start off with some of these comic books that I've been trying to get back onto. With Harleen, I want to start off with that because I didn't even get to touch up on the first book, so I'll just give like a brief overview of the entire first and second book together, because it's only a 3-issue series, and the next one's in November. Harleen is written by Stefan Sajic. I believe that's how it's pronounced. So if if the artist and author ever listens to this, I'm sorry if I butcher your name. He's a very unique artist. I believe I touched up on his work before. He did some of the Suicide Squad for the Rebirth run, and he did one of the Aquaman arcs, which was one of the best arcs ever. He did that for a while. Stefan Sajic's work is very unique, and it stands out. Like, you can tell that's his artwork. With Harleen, it touches back up on the relationship with her and the Joker. For those of you who don't know, Harley Quinn was actually a original character in the Batman the Animated Series in the 90s. She was never an original comic book character, but because of the cartoon, they brought her to the comic books, and she's been a huge hit ever since. Now she's being featured in the Birds of Prey film by Margot Robbie. She was in the last Suicide Squad film as well. She's most notable for her jester look, the red and black look. But now with this new 52 run with the and Rebirth run, she's kind of going to the movie look where it's like red and blue. But I prefer the old look more. But with this story here, just a retcon or not retcon, but a retelling of the story of Harleen Quinzel, who's a psychologist in Gotham, psychiatrist in Gotham. Her goal in this series is to find the truth behind the Joker of why he's doing the things that he does. And apparently, there's been several different psychologists and psychiatrists who's interacted with him and even made books from it, but they've never really touched up on who he is. They always touch up on the idea that what made him into the Joker instead of who is he. So Harleen goes through this process of just trying to figure out who he is, and then just throughout the timeline, you see her she's suffering from her own things too. Like when she was in college, she had a relationship with one of the professors, and I believe that was mentioned in the animated series as well. She's not really stable. She has insomnia, and she's really trying to find herself, and she uses the Joker as a candidate because she also wants to study the brain function to show that he's losing his emotions to feel empathy, and he's losing his he's losing human characteristics. The more of these villains are acting up in Gotham, that they don't have human emotions anymore. And so that's what her goal is, to figure out, to see if can these villains be cured. And she runs into the Joker. The first time she runs into the Joker, she was coming home with a friend, and it just normal heist. She's in the middle of the crossfire. The Joker points a gun at her and doesn't kill her, and because of that, that's what starts this relationship where she tries to figure out why didn't he kill me. And she meets the Batman, she meets Harvey Dent, she meets Jim Gordon, and a bunch of other villains like Ivy, Mr. Freeze, the Penguin, the Riddler. She goes on to this process of just trying to figure out what's going on, and none of them can answer her real question of why do villains act the way that they do, and do they have human attachments and emotions. So she uses the Joker as her main case, and she studies him and goes through all his old interviews with other doctors and stuff. And she finally breaks through a little bit with the Joker, and he kind of just talks to her as if he's normal. And I think that's what kind of gets her interested in him. And as a reader, you got to remember that Harley Quinn, she's not stable herself. She's a psychiatrist, but she does have a lot of her own issues. And she tries to figure out why is he acting like this towards me, and she finds some sort of admiration towards him. It's a very emotional story, the way how the writer is writing this series. And you get to see a very vulnerable side of Joker and Harley, and how they interact and how they talk to each other and how they just react off one another. And I find this story really amusing because as an adult now, you see the turmoils of this kind of relationship. And at the end, because everyone knows that the Joker is abusive as hell to Harley, but we never really broke down, or we've never really seen a broken down version of how he got her around his hook, how he pretty much learned to manipulate her and control her. At the end of issue number 2, she goes and talks to him. The thing he says to her, I want to see you smile. That messes with her so much because She's like, if he's a killer, then why does he think like that? And then she asks him like, why didn't you kill me when you saw me for the first time? And he's like, I felt like I saw something in you, and it just stuck out to me, and I didn't do it. The way how she describes his tone of voice, like where he has this raspiness, this edginess to him, and then when he talks to her, like he kind of loses that. Every time I read the Joker, I think of Mark Hamill's Joker from the cartoons. And so he's always very extra in the cartoon, very loud and crazy. But I feel like when he talks to Harley in this book, I feel like it's the normal Mark Hamill voice, very monotone, very like low and solemn. It's a very crazy like interaction between these two characters, and they end with issue 2 with Harley like turning off the camera, and like she unhooks him from his straitjacket, and he like wraps his arms around her, and he calls her Harley Quinn, and that's the end of issue 2. So there's one more issue. It's like reading a 50 Shades of Grey comic book. That's what it really feels like, without the sex, obviously. But with the Black Label, you see that they're more. It's a very mature book. Like they drop F-bombs in it. They're more detailed with these psychoanalysis of the Joker, and they don't really like. They don't back off from like the real stuff. Like with Harvey Dent, they kind of touch up on like how he gets turned into Two-Face, like where Maroni, one of the crime lords of Gotham, like hits him with the chemicals that like burns his face and puts him in an induced coma. When he turns into Two-Face, he's like talking about like how there's no justice and how the villains should be killed for their crimes and executed, and how we believe in the Batman, but he never does anything about it either. They touch upon that too, and the Joker brings that up to Harley too. Like he feels like Batman is gonna snap one day, and when that happens, it's gonna prove everything that he said, that once you go crazy, you can't come back. It's a very like detailed description from the Joker, like how he wants to see society break down and to be free from like these moral codes and the justice system. So that's Harleen. Definitely read that book. It's a very, very interesting book. I already knew that this was going to be a good series. The writer kind of has like that manga feeling to it, because a lot of comic books are just like one writer and one artist, and then they'll do like an arc or two and then they'll switch. But with the Black Label so far, it's consistently one artist and an author. I also read DCeased number 6, which is the finale of the DCeased run. I've talked about issues 4 and 5 with Andrew. I don't know if I talked about. I know I talked about the first 2 issues. Again, me and Andrew, we've discussed a few issues on previous podcasts as well. With this finale, though, it was so freaking amazing. Tom Taylor is such an underrated writer. He wrote the story so well, and within 6 issues, I liked it a lot. The comments on Facebook, people were demanding like a sequel or more issues. I think this is good enough. 6 issues is a great Elseworld story. With this finale, Superman never made it past like the sun. If you listen to the previous podcast, we learned that Superman, or if you listen to the previous episodes where me and Andrew talk about DCeased, it leaves off with Superman turning into a zombie from colliding with the Flash. So Superman comes back to Earth as a dead, deceased zombie from the anti-life equation, and starts destroying the world. And pretty much these arcs that the Amazons and Atlanteans created to, like, they're massive ships that leave the Earth, and they were trying to provide safety and sanctuary for these people. And you learn that like Wonder Woman also had plans against the Justice League to take them down if they were to ever turn. And it's funny too, because like Damian talked about Bruce's backup plans and how he had nothing for Oliver or Green Arrow. So Green Arrow felt left out, that he had no like contingency plan to be taken out. This last issue is just so incredible. Like, I literally felt like I was reading a manga. Wonder Woman goes back to Themyscira and uses the last of kryptonite that Bruce had. It merges it with the Sword of Athena, which is magic also. So you have a magic Kryptonian sword that is built to take down Superman. So Wonder Woman, Black Canary, and Cyborg go after him. If you guys forgot, Black Canary in this series is a Green Lantern too, which I highly approve. I think that's one of the best things that's ever happened. Not only is Black Canary like a metahuman with her screech, wielding a Green Lantern ring made her like that much more badass. They go and try to stop Superman while everyone's finding sanctuary in the arcs to take off and leave Earth. And then the Amazons whoever's left of the Amazons on Themyscira line up to battle the dead Atlanteans. In issue 2, Aquaman gets killed. He pretty much turns like Atlantis into like all these zombies, and whatever's left, like I think the only Atlantean that's left is Mera. So she makes it to Themyscira, and like throughout the series they merge with what's left of Atlantis with Themyscira. And so the dead Atlanteans find where they are because the magic of Themyscira is gone since they merged what's left of Atlantis with Themyscira and made it to like one big island. So all the Amazons are lining up to fight off the Atlanteans, and you see that the dead Aquaman summoned the Kraken as well. And so they're fighting the Amazons, and Taibi gets killed. Wonder Woman's mother gets killed. Wonder Girl is in the fight too, and everyone's fighting, and then you see that Green Arrow shoots Aquaman in the head, and what he says in the panel is like, Batman thinks I'm not dangerous. I just shot Aquaman in the head half a mile away with raging winds. So Green Arrow is still that deadly. Like to shoot that far away against winds and to get a nice clean headshot against Aquaman, that was badass. They hold off the battle to have the Ark leave, and then they go to Harley and Ivy. They refuse to leave. Ivy wants to protect the Green. So Damian and Jonathan Kent, they leave with the ships too, with Lois and everyone else. Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and Black Canary, I keep trying to say Green Canary, but Black Canary, they try to hold off Superman so they can escape, but then because Superman is dead, he's holding nothing back, and he punches a hole in Wonder Woman's stomach and drops her. And he chases after the ships. So Black Canary goes after them. Cyborg stays behind and wraps Wonder Woman in the lasso of truth. And so when they're in outer space, Superman's coming after the Ark, and they realize that the only one who can temporarily stop him is Jonathan. Reading this part of the issue felt like the rise of a hero. In this panel, Lois, who's narrating, she says something along the lines of, we're supposed to protect our children and help their futures. They're not supposed to fight that fight for us. And Jonathan Kent looks at Damian, and Damian says, you have to do this, right? You're the only one who can do it. He goes, I know. And he looks at Lois, and Lois is afraid for him, and he goes, don't worry, I got this. And he zips up his jacket, and it's the Superman logo, the Kryptonian logo for Superman. He zips up his jacket, and he flies into outer space. Oh man, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like this moment for Jonathan Kent. This is how you're supposed to hand down the mantle for heroes like this. I know with DC they're trying to do this new 5th generation thing in 2021 with their new heroes, but I always felt like, I believe I spoke about this before too in podcasts with Andrew. I've always felt like if you're gonna pass down these heavy titles to new characters, like a new Batman or a new Superman, give it to their sons. Damian is the new Batman in this series because Bruce left the suit and everything for him. Damian, who feels like he's not worthy of it, takes it upon himself because it's his father's last request, and Alfred gives him the suit. But with Jonathan, before Superman died in issue 5, Superman said that you're going to be a great hero. The way how Jonathan Kent just puts on a brave face and knows that his father is dead and just puts on the act as a hero, and there's no fear in him. He knows what he has to do, and that's what makes such a great hero. This panel itself, like in this issue, where Jonathan just jumps off the ships and he flies against Superman and they collide. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something so heroic about it for me, and it's so amazing to see how Tom Taylor wrote this part of the story. It's changed my perspective on Superboy or Jonathan Kent. Because in the Action Comics, he's so different. He's they did a time jump for him, so he's older now, and but in DCeased, he's still a child, like a preteen. Even though it was a quick collision, he held off Superman for about a minute, and then Black Canary came through, and she got the rest of the Green Lantern Corps to come in and stop Superman. But because of the anti-life equation, the zombie Superman was analyzing everything and knew that he couldn't beat the Green Lantern Corps. He flies into the sun and starts absorbing all of the radiation of the sun to pretty much freeze the universe. And from what you learn from the Green Lantern Corps is that the Green Lanterns can't enter the sun like that. Apparently, I don't know. I always thought they could, but apparently they couldn't. So they back off and they quarantine Earth and Superman. And they leave to Earth too. And that's pretty much the ending of the story. Oh, and before I left off this important part, when Cyborg wrapped up Wonder Woman in the lasso of truth, because that's one of Wonder Woman's weaknesses. If you wrap her up in her own lasso, she's defenseless. He wraps her up and he learns that the anti-life equation can speak. The anti-life equation's purpose is to just eradicate life. And you learn that Cyborg was the cure the whole time. If they took out Cyborg, none of this stuff would have happened. Yeah, that's that. I mean, it's kind of lackluster, but I like that they kind of throw that at the end of DCeased, where you finally realize, like, if they had just made different decisions, they could have found out about the cure, and they didn't. And what sucks too is like the tie-in of DCeased: A Good Day to Die with Constantine and Dr. Fate. I felt like that should have been more at the end with DCeased number 6 too, but I don't know. I felt like that tie-in was just something to throw in with the story. If there ever is a sequel, I wish that Constantine would be a part of it too. But overall, this DCeased, one of the best reads I've ever read this year, along with Spider-Man Life Story. Like, now that I'm getting more into my comic books and stuff, I'm realizing that a lot of the stuff I actually like reading are shorter series, and pretty much Elseworlds, really. So I think 2020 will be my last year of collecting continuity books, because I know in 2021 they're going to do a new run of DC and all that stuff, and I'm probably going to drop most of my books after that and stick with like the short Elseworld stories or mini series, and maybe just get like trade paperbacks of the big events, and pretty much just stick with the Black Label stuff. But that's pretty much DCeased number 6. And again, man, I cannot express that enough. Like, you gotta read DCeased, one of the best reads of this year. A huge underdog story. No one thought the story was gonna be good, and it was that good. Also, with the stuff that I've been reading for DC, I've been reading the Dark Multiverse stories, like Tales of the Dark Multiverse. So far, they have the Batman Knightfall story and the Death of Superman story. So pretty much these are just one shots written by DC writers. I believe the Batman Knightfall was written by Scott Snyder. Pretty much these multiverse stories are about Tempest, who is a guardian of the Dark Multiverse. He can travel in and out of both spectrums of the regular multiverse and Dark Multiverse. It's pretty much after the events of Dark Knight's Metal. Tempest is looking for heroes to bring to our world for the crisis that's about to happen, which I believe is the year of the villain stuff with the Justice League, the Dark Justice League with Batman Who Laughs, and Lex Luthor's Legion of Doom. But that's what Tempest is doing. And so this first multiverse, or this first universe that Tempest looks at, is the Batman universe where Bane breaks Batman's back, but instead of Batman coming back to save Gotham, Azrael takes over. And so you learn that when Azrael takes over Gotham, he's pretty much put it under the rules of Duma, which is like the whole religion aspect of Azrael. I've never read the entire Knightfall series. I just read the part to where Bane broke Batman's back. But in this story, Azrael takes over Gotham for the next 30 years. And pretty much there is a underground army that's about to come up and take over Gotham as well. But you see that Azrael is living off of whatever venom he has left from Bane. And he's old now. He's just trying to keep Gotham as he has it. He feels like he is the better ruler for Gotham as well. And then you see that he has Bruce Wayne cut up and tied up on the top of a building. And you learn that he's been ripping off Batman's limbs for every year he's ruled. So pretty much Batman is just like no arms, no legs. He's tied up and he's put on like he's just left enough to where he can survive. And Azrael is showing Bruce Wayne like, I'm a better Batman than you are. And then you learn that Torn, who is the son of Bane, comes up and saves Bruce, and pretty much tells Bruce that I'm here to help you and help you take over Gotham again, to get rid of Azrael. And so him and Lady Shiva, who is the in this story his mother, she gives Bruce this nanotech bat suit, so he can pretty much walk again and fight again. And with this suit, Bruce, like whoever Bruce kills, it absorbs their like biological cells in their bodies. So pretty much he can like kill you and take your body parts for him. and that's what he's doing. And so in this fight, they pretty much just take over Gotham again. Bruce Wayne kills Azrael and kills both Torn and Lady Shiva and takes over Gotham. And again, this is the Dark Multiverse. Like, Tempest thought that he could recruit this Batman, but apparently not, because he turned over and killed everyone and decided to take over Gotham again. And then with the and I believe he's named Batman the Broken in this one. It's a very interesting story, to see Batman and with this nanotech suit, and to see him just kind of kill everyone and pretty much snap in a different way. So I thought that was really good for the first one shot as well. And then with the death of Superman, this one I really liked a lot, because it deals with Lois Lane. After, like, in this universe, Tempest looks to see why there's still darkness in the world or in the universes, and what's the purpose of darkness and whatnot. Because he can't interact with them; he can only see and observe. So in this universe, Lois Lane witnesses the death of Superman, and she's upset at the League and all the other heroes. Like, if it wasn't for him, no one would be alive, and none of you guys tried to save Superman. So she kind of just builds up this resentment towards the other heroes, and so she goes around with Clark's parents. Like, she hangs around with Martha, and pretty much witnesses Martha's pain as Jonathan Kent dies too, which is Superman's Earth dad. He dies, and then Lois tries to let go of Superman, so she goes to Superman's Fortress of Solitude, and through there she meets the Eradicator, who realizes that it's too late to save Superman, and he doesn't have a body to manifest to be the Superman to be the substitute Superman until Superman comes back. And the death of Superman is being healed in the chamber where he's absorbing more sunlight, and Lois decides to take upon the Eradicator's abilities and tells him that, use my body, because you know what, like, I'm the only chance of you manifesting something. So the Eradicator tells her there's a huge risk to this, and she goes, I have nothing left to lose. Lois Lane, she becomes the Eradicator and pretty much does everything that Superman never did. Lois Lane learns that Lex Luthor was responsible for Doomsday, and so she kills him, and then she starts killing other major villains like Joker and whatnot. And then Batman confronts her, and then Batman's like, her and Batman go at it with the whole idea of being a hero, and why she tells Bruce, like, why do you let these villains live knowing what they do? And Bruce tells her, the typical thing where we have to be better than them. And so she kills Bruce, and she pretty much fights off and kills a bunch of people who she feels like is not worthy anymore. And then you learn that during the time of the Return of the Superman, where you see Superboy come in, Steel come in, Cyborg Superman come in, she goes and fights them, and she ignores Steel and Superboy. She goes and tries to kill Cyborg Superman, but during the fight, Superman, the real Superman, comes back, and so while she's trying to fight them off and help him to, Cyborg Superman in the process killed both Steel and he kills Superboy, which I thought was crazy too, because like he pretty much like held on to Superboy and like used his laser beams and burned off his head, which was crazy. And he uses this like Kryptonian laser or some sort of energy blast, and it hits everyone, but Lois survives it because she's human, so she's immune to it. But Clark dies, and so after she kills Cyborg Superman, it's like she's not normal. She doesn't even think rationally anymore. She feels like it's not her fault, and it's crazy. Like the last 3 pages, she's just trying to find vengeance and find reason to use her powers to be more like Superman, and it has nothing to do with being like Superman. It's super ironic. Was super hypocritical, and it's pretty much Lois Lane snapped, and it's a crazy story, like especially with that ending, because you think that after being responsible for Superman's real death again, that she'd learn to not use her abilities, but nope, she like, I'm gonna find vengeance for you. Like, no, holy shit, she's crazy, and she still tries to make the world a better place. And then at the end of the story, you see that Tempest narrating says that there's no salvation for her. Like, she's beyond saving, and so she pretty much continues her onslaught to vengeance upon the universe where she's currently residing in. But these Tales of the Dark Multiverse stories are super cool because it's giving you a different aspect of what could have happened if something like this happened. I believe there is a Judas contract on coming out because Art Germ verified his artwork for one. I don't know when that one's coming out though, but these past two ones are really good. I'm looking forward to these next ones that's coming out. So definitely check those ones out as well. Again, this is Tales of the Dark Multiverse. The first one was Batman Knightfall. The second one I was talking about was Death of Superman. And these are all one-shots. So no continuity stories, no series, all one-shot stories, all one-shot books pretty much. And sticking with DC, I do want to talk about Titans as well. The last episode Andrew and I left off on was, I believe, the Connor Kent episode. So I think that was episode 6. I finally caught up. I've been lacking in the DC Titans story. So I finally caught up this weekend with episode 7, which is titled Bruce Wayne. You see that Dick Grayson is haunted by the actions of what he's done with Jericho and Deathstroke. And so you see that he's haunted by Bruce Wayne, which is in his head, which is like a symbol or metaphor of his guilt. And I love that. I'm not too big on the actor for Bruce Wayne. I was at first, but not anymore because he pretty much sounds like Alfred. But I thought it was funny because he does the tribute or homage to Adam West's Batman with the dancing and the disco style dance. So that was funny. But you kind of just learn that Dick Grayson feels extremely guilty for what's happened, and his lie is creeping into everyone else around him. And Jason Todd is he's not the same after being attacked by Deathstroke, and he feels crazy because he's having nightmares of falling, and he tries to jump off the building, and Dick Grayson stops him in time and tells him the truth. And then episode 8, the Titans try to recruit Jericho to being a part of their team, and you learn that Jericho has a metahuman power where he can transfer his consciousness to other people. And then you learn that that Deathstroke's kill in episode 7, where you think he killed Aqualad, was actually meant for Donna Troy's mentor. And so Donna Troy goes to the museum where they're at, and she finds out that her mentor got killed by Deathstroke, and she learned that Aqualad saved them. And so she goes after Deathstroke. Deathstroke nearly kills her, and then Grayson goes and takes it upon himself to get revenge. And during this time as well, Dawn and Hank, they try to convince, or not Hank, but Dawn tries to convince Dick Grayson that they should tell Jericho the truth of who his dad, or let him know that let him know his dad's a killer. And Jericho tries to go confront his dad, and so he hears the story from Deathstroke. And so at the church where Grayson's trying to get revenge, he fights Deathstroke, and Jericho's there trying to stop his dad as well. Grayson gets beat up, and then right when Deathstroke pulls out the sword to kill Dick Grayson, Jericho takes the blade and sacrifices himself to save Grayson. And because of that, Dick Grayson feels that guilt, because if he hadn't used Jericho for revenge, Jericho would have never been killed. And so in the latest episode, you learn that Dick Grayson doesn't know how to deal with this, and he tells everyone the truth, because Rose, who is also a child of Deathstroke, learns the truth about Jericho too, because she finds his album or vinyl disc in Dick Grayson's room, or Jason Todd's room, which was owned by Dick Grayson. But Rose learns the truth and she leaves. Jason follows her. Raven leaves with Donna Troy, and pretty much everything that's happened is all Dick Grayson's fault. If Dick Grayson never lied, he would have had the Titans together still. And so when everyone's separated, Garth, or Beast Boy, is left with the task to take care of Connor Kent. And so while he's trying to teach Connor Kent how to be normal and be a part of the Titans, Connor Kent thinks that being a hero is to help anyone who is in need. So he stops the police from arresting a guy and attacks the police force, and Garth leaves the scene. And pretty much it's a depressing episode, and you learn that Dick Grayson was going to leave too, because when he talks to Deathstroke's wife, he wants to go apologize to her and he wants to atone himself, but then as he's doing that with Deathstroke's wife, Deathstroke was in their other room listening, and he threatens him. He's like, if you and our Titans get together, I'm going to kill every one of you. So Dick Grayson decides to leave, and then he ends up getting arrested because he attacks the airport security. Overall, I probably made it sound a lot worse from just describing what I think of it. It's something that you should definitely watch. I wish HBO picked up the show instead, because I think HBO is going to pick up some more DC stuff, and they have Watchmen too. But yeah, that's what I think of it so far. It's much better than the Arrowverse for sure. I like this season a lot. Definitely better than the first one. It's great to see that these characters are being like shown in a different light. Like you see Dick Grayson in a more darker tone. He's not always the super happy heroic character. You see that he also has his demons as well, which I think that was really cool to showcase that for his character. And even with Starfire, I like her a lot in this season better than the first one. Most likely that because she's written better now, and she's also having her own story too. And they review who Blackfire is, or they show the actress for Blackfire, who is Starfire's older or Starfire's sister, who wants to take over her planet and be queen. That's all Starfire's own storyline, but I wish the actress looked differently. I felt like the actress for Blackfire looked a little bit too old. But hopefully when they show her in person, she'll look better. But yeah, overall this last episode of Titans, it ended off with a very heavy cliffhanger, and emotionally these characters are all just fucked up from Dick Grayson's lie. I mean, that's what happens when you lie, right? And Dick Grayson just feels responsible for it, so he decides to get arrested. But that's pretty much what's happened in Titans. It's all revolving around Deathstroke and Jericho. And I do think that I read somewhere on Facebook, there was an article that said that DC is trying to get Deathstroke to have his own spin-off series too. I'm not too sure about that, but if they do, I would approve of it. Deathstroke, this recent actor for Deathstroke matches the role so perfectly. He's got like the right age down, the right look down. He's very menacing, much better than Manu Bennett for sure. But yeah, it's a great show so far. I'm excited for the next episode as well, and I think there's only like 4 or 5 more episodes left. Not too much, but yeah, I'm excited. So that's pretty much Titans right there. I did want to talk about My Hero. So I believe the last issue I left off with My Hero, I believe I talked about with Endeavor breaking the code of Hawks. So pretty much Endeavor is taking Midoriya, Bakugo, and Shoto under his wing as like students for the hero programs. He initially only wanted to train Shoto because that's his son, but Shoto brought along Bakugo and Midoriya, and so you're learning that Endeavor is more than just the hot-headed hero. He's the number one hero for a reason, and he's actually a really good teacher as well. He's putting Bakugo in his place, telling Bakugo that you can't make excuses for everything that's going on. And you learn that Bakugo does make excuses a lot for what's happening. It's like, it's because of this, it's because of that. I like that Endeavor put Bakugo in his place and told Bakugo, like, when real shit happens, you can't blame anyone but yourself. That's on you. That's your responsibility. So I like that he's very upfront with Bakugo. And I feel like he knows that there's similarities between him and Bakugo too. So he's seeing himself in Bakugo's character. With Todoroki, he's trying to teach Todoroki how to use his Hell Flame more. And with Midoriya, I like this a lot too. Like in these last several issues, you learn that Midoriya is so concentrated on trying to be like All Might, and so Endeavor tells him like maybe you should not be like All Might and with your quirks, because Midoriya talks about his second quirk that he possibly has, but he doesn't say it exactly to Endeavor. He tells Endeavor that it's like a side effect, and so Endeavor tells him like maybe you should start training to where you're not thinking and be instinctive, because that's what we all need to be is as heroes, is to react on instinct. And so with Midoriya, I think that's a great way to train him. That way he doesn't always think, and I feel like that's one of Midoriya's biggest weaknesses too, is that Midoriya overanalyzes everything. Like when you see him fight against Bakugo back in season 3, he can't react to Bakugo because he's always thinking, so he has to just fight on the fly. And that's what makes, like, that's the difference between him and Bakugo, is that I feel like Bakugo, the only way for him to beat Midoriya is to just overwhelm him. And even though Midoriya has the much more powerful quirk, Bakugo's fighting instincts and his like experience in fighting is much better than Midoriya. And so with Endeavor training them, I feel like this is gonna be a great session for them to be under Endeavor's wing and to learn from Endeavor. And also, I mean, like with the villains as well. I mean, you learn that Shigaraki, he's learning to let go of everything that's been holding him back, and he's gonna pretty much master his quirk more with his decay quirk. And you learn that Hawks is he feels like he's under a lot of pressure because he knows that he feels like someone is gonna figure him out soon. And so it's a lot of tension in the League of Villains right now. They have over 500,000, I think, or 100,000 people in their group, and they're gonna do like a massive attack on the heroes. And Shigaraki just wants to wipe out all of justice and all that stuff. I'm excited for it, and hopefully they touch up more about his powers too. But that's what pretty much happened in My Hero. It's pretty much just Endeavor training them, just learning more about their quirks. I feel like there's going to be another big fight coming soon. As of right now, this current arc, they're going to just continue with their training. And then at the end of the last issue, they end off with Shoto's sister inviting them to their house. But that's what's happening in My Hero too. And that's pretty much it for all the comic books and stuff that I wanted to talk about, in manga as well. So time for our main topic for tonight, the SuicideGirls Blackheart Burlesque. This is something that I've been going to for 4 years now. I like the tour that they do. I've been following Suicide Girls since I was in middle school, like during MySpace days. I believe one of my cousins was the ones who first like introduced me to Suicide Girls. If you don't know, Suicide Girls was found in 2001 by Missy Suicide, who what they do is promote women of many shapes and sizes and looks, to bend the rules of a modern day modeling, I guess you can say. Pretty much like they show that models don't have to have a specific look. A lot of Suicide Girl models are much more curvier. They have more shapes in them. A lot of them have various hairstyles, colors. A lot of them have tattoos. That's the big part of the Suicide Girl brand, is the tattoos and the style, and it's more like scene punk emo look. It's much different than the normal model. But I've been following this brand since 2007, 8ish. I've always heard of who they were. I've never met these actual models back until I think 4 years ago. I think back in 2015. I believe that's the first time I went to a burlesque show. It was at the L Club in Detroit, Michigan. That night I met I don't remember all their names, but that's the first time I met Sunshine Suicide. She does the she's the tour manager of the burlesque show. She does photography as well. She's been in the brand for a very long time too. She was one of the very first Suicide Girl models as well. She was there. I met her. I met Sunny Holiday. I think that's her name. Sunny Suicide as well. She was actually, her story is pretty cool too, because she was someone that was actually in the crowd and participated in one of the acts for the burlesque show, and then she got recruited. So that was pretty cool to hear. And I also met Murney Suicide. I met Shay. I've met Maud Suicide, who's from Detroit, or from Michigan. I don't think she's from Detroit, but she's from Michigan. I've met who else did I meet? I don't remember their names. There's so many of them, but I have 3 books in total throughout the times I've been to the tours. My favorite one's the Geekology book of the Suicide Girls. It's pretty much like geek culture. They introduced, like, it's pretty much like a hardcover book with photos of the Suicide Girls, with a little like introduction and who they are and what they do and whatnot, and what they're interested in. The geekology one is just more like the more nerdy Suicide Girls. But I've met them I met the dancers on 4 occasions. The second tour was at the Majestic, as well as the third tour as well. On those tours, I met Lindsay Jennings, who is a stand-up comedian as well. I met her. I've met Silo Suicide. I've met Goose and Arrow as well, and Circa as well. I met Skella. I've met Skella the first time too, like, but I didn't really get to talk to her until this last tour. This last tour I went to, these girls were completely new. Besides Lindsay and Lyric. Lyric was one of the first ones I met too, but Lindley stood out for me, and Saria stood out for me. They all had like their own solo acts too, and then I met LSD. She was the MC for the last tour. She was pretty cool. She had this one act where she was dressed up as Bo Peep, and she sang a variation of "You've Got a Friend in Me," and that was fucking funny because she was singing about like her own toys that she uses for herself, and so that was pretty funny. I wasn't expecting to hear the lyrics like that, but it was pretty funny. All they pretty much do is just is dance on stage, and it's not like, it's like a striptease, put it that way. That's the best way I could put it. I've gotten VIPs for all the tours I've been to meet them and get signatures from them. The third tour I went to, Sunshine, I actually like hooked me up with a VIP, because I forgot to buy one online, and so she's like, yeah, just buy one at the table. I'll make an exception for you. So that was pretty cool. And I bought a bunch of shirts from their booth. I got a free DVD from them because of the purchase I made. Originally, I really wanted to meet Catherine Suicide or Rebecca Crow. She's actually one of my favorite suicide models. She's from the UK, and I follow her on Instagram too. And you can follow any of these models on Instagram. Just find them under the whole Suicide Girls title. Like, just search Suicide Girls on Instagram, and eventually you'll come across the ones I've been talking about. They always post up like links and tag them and stuff like that. So I thought it was pretty cool to just meet them, and my experience with the Suicide Girls is always a good time. I liked it a lot. I keep telling myself that, this is the last one I'm going to go to, but after the most recent tour I went to, I want to go back again. I liked it a lot, not only because of the culture of it, but I like to meet them. They're all very cool and very friendly as well. They have like crowd interactions. The first one that they do is like a couples one, where they have one of the girls show you how to do a lap dance. The last tour I went to, this couple was crazy. It was super hysterical because like the guy got really into it, and and the girls on stage didn't expect any of that, and it was super hysterical. And the second act that they have crowd interactions is they bring a guy on stage. Most likely, like, they try to find like a more business nerdier looking guy with glasses, and one that dresses up more. What they do with that opportunity is that they have the guy read a story, and during the song that they play, which is one of what's her name, Lana Del Rey, I think it's called, the song is $1 Million Man. They play that song while the guy is reading the story on stage, and the girl, one of the dancers, will come out and she'll dance around him. And before, I think they used to not say like keep your hands on the paper, but I think there's been some occasions where the guys like know what's gonna happen, so they don't read it and don't interact with the act properly. So now this time around, they're like, yeah, keep your hands on the paper and read the story. So they have to read this story that they're given, and while they're being distracted by the girl who's dancing around them. And the guy who read it up on stage was like this older gentleman, and it was just funny because like he didn't read the story. There hasn't been one guy I've seen that's gone up there and read the story and knew what was going on. Every guy that's gone up there, they don't read the story. They're all like, they're all mesmerized by the model that's dancing on stage. So that was pretty funny as well. And then the last crowd interaction that they do is they bring a bunch of women on stage to do like some sort of dance off. With each crowd interaction, they get like a free year subscription to Suicide Girls website, which you get to see like over hundreds of models and hopefuls photos and stuff like that. SG hopefuls are girls who are applying for the Suicide Girls stuff, so they're not really technically under the Suicide Girls banner yet, but they're a part of it at the same time. Like there's also like cam girls that's a part of the Suicide Girls stuff. I met one cam girl one time. I think she was like 19. I didn't even expect her to be like that or be a cam girl, but that's I forgot her name. She follows me on Instagram, but then she's barely on it. So I think the last time we talked, she was like, "Yeah, I just applied to be a Suicide Girl. Hopefully something happens." But ever since I haven't contacted her since. But I did take an advantage this time with this last tour. I handed out my podcast cards to Skella and to Saria. During the VIP meet and greet, Saria saw that I had my Attack on Titan phone case on my phone, and I believe she's from Europe. She has an accent, but if not, I'm sorry. If you ladies ever listen to this, yeah. But we talked about anime for a bit, and it was pretty cool. Like that, she geeked out about Attack on Titan and stuff, and then I told her to watch Demon Slayer. As you know, I tell everyone to watch Demon Slayer, but I told her to watch Demon Slayer. But hopefully, if they ever listen to this podcast, hopefully they reach out and be a part of it. I know I gave them my card, but I highly doubt that they actually listen and like try to contact me and be a part of it. These girls are so busy with their own lives too, and they got other things to do than to be a part of a podcast. But I'm being a hopeful right now. Hopefully that I can get a Suicide Girl on the podcast. That'll be really badass. But yeah, that's pretty much my overall experience with the Suicide Girls Blackheart Burlesque. I recommend that like people should definitely go to this kind of stuff more. It's definitely more eye opening. And then yeah, it's like some certain girls have like solo acts, like I've said. Some of them sing on stage. Saria sang one of her acts. She dressed up as Sabrina the Witch, as did the Netflix one. Lindley did a Mortal Kombat routine where she danced up as one of the fighters. And cool story, what happened to her on this recent tour is that she had to get like stitches on her finger. She showed me too, because when I met her during the VIP session, I was like, aren't you the one that cut your finger too during your dance? She goes, yeah, look at it, look at my finger, I cut that shit, and like it looked pretty bad, but she, that was pretty cool too. Even though with that minor cut, like she still kept performing. And so I think this time around she's using like plastic fans instead of the metal ones. But that was pretty unique to see that she didn't stop to give a great performance. And she's very like Lindley was very like energized on stage. Like their last performance was the Rick and Morty one, and she was dressed up as Rick. And so like I had a front row seat, so you can see like their facial expressions and stuff. And she's very like into the dance and stuff. So that was pretty cool to see. That like she was feeding off of the stage presence and stuff like that as well. Again, follow Suicide Girls on Facebook, Instagram. You can find tons and tons of models there, all different styles, all different looks. This last topic here that I want to talk about is UFC 244 at B-Dubs. And what a fucking card. I don't have the Fight Pass to watch the pre-prelims, but I watched the free prelims at B-Dubs, which was on ESPN2. Around 8 o'clock, they always show it. All knockouts. Andrei Arlovsky got KO'd within 30 seconds. That dude needs to hang up his gloves. The second fight, I believe, was the Brad Tavares fight as well. And this new up-and-comer, I don't know what's his name. Edmund Shabazian. Edmund Shabazian. he's undefeated, but he had like the karate style. He hid his left front kick or left lead kick pretty well. He dropped Tavares with the cross at first, and then he had him against the cage, and he was like throwing some combinations and hit the kick very well. You think that he's gonna throw a jab, but then he throws the high kick, knocks out Brad Tavares, and then Shane Burgos fights Macklin Amirkhani. Amirkhani took over that first round, wrestled Burgos down. These guys are like, some of these guys are so new to me. I don't even know who they are, but Burgos like showed a lot of heart. He pretty much wore down Amirkhani, wore him down to the third round, and like had him so out of breath and so like tired. He pretty much finished him within the last minute. He was throwing some nasty body shots and like keeping him on the feet, and he pretty much timed the guy's takedown, so he pretty much canceled his style. And then the last prelim fight was Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker was in talks of being the next contender to fight John Jones. In one of his last fights, he injured himself celebrating. Walker is a very tall light heavyweight. He's always starting off kind of crazy, with hands in the face and crazy movements and stuff. And then Corey Anderson just caught him with an overhand right and just smothered him and pretty much TKO'd him. And Corey Anderson was very emotional. I felt like he knew that he was the underdog in this fight, and he felt like everyone was overlooking him, and he was extremely emotional. I didn't keep up with too much of the post-fight stuff. I know that I don't think he mentioned anything about a title fight, but I think him and Dana are not like on the same page with each other. Detroit's very own Kevin Lee was a freaking beast, man. Like he switched camps to TriStar Gym, which is GSP's gym, so he's training with Firas Zahabi. The guy looked on fire, man. Like you could see his staph infection, which was kind of gross, but if there aren't antibiotics, then they can continue to fight. But Kevin Lee came in there hungry. I think his last. I don't know when was his last fight. Was it against Ferguson, or I believe he was coming off a loss, and his main coach recently passed away too, because he talked about it on Joe Rogan's podcast about it. But then he took Joe Rogan's advice and switched camps, and he's with Firas Zahabi now, and he knocked out Gregor Gillespie, who was like an undefeated wrestler, and he was really tough too. You can see he was a good fighter. Kevin Lee caught him with the right hook, threw a left high kick, and knocked him clean out. Highlight reel knockout. It was crazy good. And the reaction that they showed of Joe Rogan, John Anik, and Dominic Cruz, and even Megan O'Leary, they all like, all three of them, even her, like she looked like she was about to like throw up, because she looked so like shocked. But everyone else is, you're commentating, and then, whoa, oh my god, and like you see Joe Rogan's face. Joe Rogan has the best reaction because his eyes are so focused on the fight, and then he just starts screaming. He doesn't act like how Daniel Cormier would, where he'd jump out the seat and stuff. But Joe Rogan's definitely energetic as well. Great first fight for the card. The second fight was Derek Lewis and Blagov Ivanov. He's a Russian fighter. Ivanov is a sambo specialist, so which is Russian style, like wrestling or jiu-jitsu mixed with judo. I felt like Lewis didn't win that fight. The guy next to me, we were talking about it at the bar, and we agreed that Lewis did not win that fight. Lewis threw less strikes. He didn't do much except like sprawl up from the ground. Ivanov had more time on the ground. He had 3 successful takedowns. I think it's just politics, man. I think it felt like Lewis won by split decision because of his name. And the fight after that was Wonderboy against Vincente Luca. Luca is a tough dude. I've never seen this guy either, and I felt like if he had more time, he probably would have been able to beat Wonderboy as well. Wonderboy style is a point fighting karate, kickboxing style. He has phenomenal footwork. I'm not taking anything away from this guy, but Wonderboy's style it's very hard to beat. And I feel like with karate guys, taekwondo guys, you got to take out their legs, because they don't ever really check kicks, because the whole fight Wonderboy was absorbing leg kicks and wasn't checking any of them, but he was circling a lot and throwing nice side kicks. He threw a high side kick, dropped down Luque twice with it. He threw some good wheel kicks that landed, but I felt like he wasn't throwing everything 100%, or at least it didn't look like it, because he was throwing some heavy shots, but Luque did not back down, and Thompson won by points or by decision. But I felt like if Luque had another opportunity, he could probably beat Wonderboy. Wonderboy's style, I feel like watching him fight, if he could just work on his boxing a little bit more, he'd be really good, because he throws a lot of 1-2s, which is like a straight jab and a straight cross, and he doesn't really follow up with that after all. Like, after he throws like the straight cross, he drops his hands again. Then I was telling the guy next to me at the bar, I was like, if Luque was a better boxer, after he throws the right cross, he could just throw a hook or like go over, or throw a hard overhand right, and land on Thompson, because Thompson would just go with the 1-2, and then, I mean, obviously his style is very tricky, because you can't tell if he's going to throw a nice side kick or a lead kick, because Wonderboy is very good at hiding his lead foot after throwing like the 1-2. But from seeing the fight, I think if he fought a better boxer, he could probably get caught from after throwing his combinations, because again, Wonderboy doesn't follow up after anything after that cross. But he won by points. And it showed that he was back in the game. The co-main event was Kelvin Gastelum and Darren Till. Super underwhelming fight. Because this was meant to be like a good fight. Kelvin Gastelum is coming off the loss of Israel Adesanya. Great fight. I believe it should still be on YouTube. I don't know if they took it down yet, but definitely watch it. Kelvin Gastelum, who is a Ultimate Fighter winner, a last pick too on the show, young wrestler. Kelvin Gastelum's one of my favorite fighters, because when I watched him, he was only 21. I'm not that much younger than he is. And so seeing someone like him, a young fighter, rise up in the ranks and being one of the top middleweights today is very inspirational. And I just wish, like, it sucks for him, because the weight cut to 70 is so hard, and he had like an incident with this past card with making weight at 180, and I feel bad for him, because he's such a good, tough fighter. It's just like his physical traits, like his height and his reach, are such a huge disadvantage against guys like Darren Till. And the thing is, Darren Till is coming up to middleweight from his 2 losses at welterweight. So Darren Till was already a big 170 fighter. Now he's just fighting naturally at 180, and he looks even bigger. I believe on MMA Junkie, on one of the news sources, during the post-fight conference, he said that he was afraid to get knocked out, and honestly, I felt like he was afraid to get into the fight too, only because of his 2 knockout losses, which is, I mean, it says a lot for a fighter. I mean, getting knocked out bad in the past 2 fights makes fighters think twice about what they want to do, and he fought very safe. He kept Kelvin Gastelum at a distance, and just fought him off and won by points. I really wish Kelvin had a better opportunity to land better strikes, but Darren Till pretty much canceled the wrestling game. You could tell he worked on his defense a lot, and he fought his fight. I can't say nothing more than that, but I wish it was more entertaining. But Darren Till, he's a young up-and-comer as well. He's only 26, which is crazy. All these fighters are getting younger and better, which is insane. But yeah, good job to him. And with this main event, the baddest motherfucker title fight, created for Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz, and The Rock got to wrap the belt around the winner as well. Jorge pretty much dominated the first round with Nate Diaz. He landed a nice right hand and followed up with the kick that landed on Diaz's face and hurt him really bad. And he cut him with some nasty elbows. And I believe prior Diaz had just recovered from some really bad cuts from training. And that's what's crazy about this sport too, is like a lot of fighters, they go into training hurt, and then they go into the fight hurt as well. So these fighters are never 100% in their main fights. But Diaz was tough. The second round was really good. He fought off a lot better. He landed some really nice strikes to Masvidal. I almost thought that I feel like Diaz probably had the opportunity to almost knock out Masvidal, but Masvidal is tough as hell too, and he's such a good striker, and he was throwing some really nasty body kicks to Nate Diaz. When they got to the ground, Nate Diaz almost locked in a heel hook, but not enough time. And in the third round, Masvidal was just landing some power right hands, some hard kicks, and the cut got to Diaz. And after that third round, the doctor stopped it. And the New York Commission for MMA, they're brand new. They're like less than 3 years old. For the fighter's safety, they saved Nick Diaz. But I feel like if it was in Vegas, they would have let the fight continue. But when you look at the cut from the photos, it did look pretty bad. So you can see why they stopped it as well. Hopefully they run it back in Vegas. But from reading MMA Junkie and the whole MMA Sports website, I believe that's what it is. Let me just give it the proper title. MMAfighting.com. They confirmed that they've, or at least the headlines, and in the article they said that Dana is not really into this second fight, but money talks, man. And hopefully if they do run it back, Super Bowl weekend for sure. And even Jorge Masvidal said that he doesn't like to end it like this. He wanted to, quote unquote, baptize Nate Diaz or knock him out. Great job to both fighters. And it was, honestly, I felt like this fight was such a hard pick for me. I loved them both. But I picked Masvidal because Masvidal is on a tear right now. The dude is hungry as hell right now. He's knocking people out. Ever since he moved up to 170, he doesn't have to cut too much weight. And the dude's a good scrapper, man. He has a good story. Him and Nate Diaz both. They are like real, like Cinderella stories, if you can say, because like these guys are from struggling homes. They're from the hood. They're as real as you can get, like to relate to. And these guys aren't like breaded up fighters like fucking Conor McGregor. These guys are real dudes who grew up really tough and had real tough lives, and fighting was a way for them to escape and to pretty much save themselves. And I mean, they weren't just fighting just to fight. They were fighting for their lives pretty much. Nate Diaz is one of my favorite fighters for his story. Him and Nick, if they never went to jiu-jitsu class, they would have never gotten food. That's pretty much what happened. Like Nate Diaz, I believe he's mentioned, like he only went to jiu-jitsu class because they got food there for him. And he went because of that. And by the time he knew it, he was a blue belt. And I think that's such a crazy story. I mean, these guys, like Nate Diaz and Nick, they grew up in Stockton, California. They grew up tough. They grew up with bullies and being picked on, and now they're on top of the world. Jorge Masvidal is from Florida. He grew up fighting. He's from the hood, and he was fighting during Kimbo Slice days in the backyards of Florida. And now he fought in Strikeforce, and then he went up to UFC. These are great stories, and that's why I like these two fighters a lot. Hopefully they get the rematch again, and if not, I hope Masvidal gets a title shot next, because the next fight is Usman and Covington, which is another great welterweight fight. I like Usman, but I would like to see Masvidal knock out Covington. That's what I want. But that's pretty much what's happened in the past week and a half, really. A lot of comic book reading again, reading the manga and stuff like that. Trying to catch up on a bunch of the stuff that I'm refusing to read, and yeah, that's pretty much what's happened. Some last minute stuff here as well before I wrap things up. I'm in talks with several guests as well for November. I know November 16th, I have Tuho, who is a photographer. He has his own studios, 2HX Studios. I think that's what it is. He's an up-and-coming photographer. He's a freelancer. He's local in the Metro Detroit area. I'm going to be talking to him about that. Yeah, I'm excited to meet him. Or I've met him before, but I'm excited to have him on the podcast. Another guest I have for the weekend before Thanksgiving, so that's like the 22nd to the 24th, around that time, I have DC Reacts. DC Reacts is a channel where the guy DC, he's a Hmong reviews guy. He reviews like rap videos and reacts to them while he watches them. And he's interviewed quite a few West Coast Hmong rappers like T-Bone, Diversity, Stars V, and we've been communicating back and forth as well. He's been listening to some of my stuff, and much respect to him. I'm very excited to have him on the podcast, so thank you, DC. I've been in several talks with a bunch of other artists, but I have reached out to quite a few. Again, Tuho and DC Reacts. These two guys are the next for sure guest I'll be having on my show. I'm very excited for this. And I'm trying to wrap things up for December as well with one more guest. But again, follow Van Brooks, follow Tuhua, follow DC Reacts. I'll have their information on the descriptions as well. Follow Suicide Girls. You can find them easily on any social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you have money, you could pay them for my only cams and stuff like that. So shout out to all the SG girls. Shout out to the Blackheart Burlesque. Hopefully I can get one of them on the podcast in the future. And go ahead and read your comic books, watch your anime. Contact Spoiler First Podcast through Popluck Podcast Facebook's page or popluckpodcast@gmail.com if you have any thoughts, criticism, comments, anything that you'd like to recommend. If you want to be a guest, contact me through that as well. Again, popluckpodcast@gmail.com or Popluck Podcast on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to my channels as well on YouTube and SoundCloud. And I also want to thank LP and Baymong Productions for letting me use their instrumental for my podcast, as always. And also make sure you guys check out Indochina Gardens located in Boyne City, Michigan. As I said before, they have some of the best food there, great service, great atmosphere as well. So make sure you check them out. And that's it. I guess have a good night, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, follow my Instagram at RickyVang92, RICKYVANG92, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook.com/PopluckPodcast.